Okay, so welcome back one and all to the Circular Materials Conference based out of Chalmers, but obviously in the postage stamp world of Zoom and being online. We hope you had a nice break. In this session, we're going to meet the innovation disruptors. Goodness me, circular economy is, if we actually get it right, is about fundamental transformational change at all levels, at scale, at pace. And that requires individuals within organizations to make those changes, to take the risks, to work through what the future is going to look like, and then be part of changing systems within organizations, new research, etc., to reveal circularity in all its glory. That's the plan. In this session, we're going to meet a number of disruptors, innovation disruptors, hear a little bit of their story and what they're doing. And also there's going to be an opportunity after we've heard 10 minutes from each of them for you to join a breakout group to have a more personal conversation with one of our disruptors. So fingers crossed that will work. But I'm going to go straight in, and I'm delighted we're joined this morning by James Lundström, Head of Circular Economy at Volvo Cars. Goodness me, the world of mobility is in transformation. The opportunities and the demands of circularity are legion. So, James, great to have you with us. I should think you're exhausted in the transformation process, but fascinating to hear just how you're coming to grips with transforming the future at Volvo Car Group. Over to you.
So thank you for that very kind introduction. I'll do my best to live up to all of it. Just a simple question, if you can see my screen.
Yep, it's there.
Technology is with us today. That has been a disruptive journey in itself. So good morning to everyone. James Lundström. My work profession right now is Head of Circular Economy at Volvo, which is indeed a very disruptive area. And I'll briefly share how we are trying to make the transition into becoming truly a circular business. The first thing, using a cliche statement, culture beats strategy every day of the week, but you need to set the culture in the company. And what Volvo has always been known for is safety. We have a heritage that's almost 100 years old, and it was part of founding the company. We have now, since about 3 years, put sustainability on the same level. And when you get a strong commitment from the top management all the way up to the CEO of the company, you shift the culture. So instead of seeing the difficulties in adapting a design or adapting technology or changing the business model, there is now a keen interest, and a job that I thought would be a lot of pushing has turned out to be a lot of pulling instead, which is a wonderful environment to work in. And there is a huge drive and a lot of interest. The difficulty, as probably has been covered here today, and why this is disruptive, is we don't really have the answers of all we need to do to actually reach the targets. The foundation for our sustainability work in general, and we could spend hours on this, but as for many companies, is built on UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we have identified 3 key areas where we link these goals to that are our key efforts. Climate action becomes quite obvious when you're in the transport industry and the use of fossil fuels, which is one disruptive area in itself. We have the circular economy area, and we also have ethical and responsible business. And it's my own and my colleagues' firm belief that you cannot be a truly sustainable company unless you address all of these. And we're seeing a lot of not necessarily greenwashing, but attempts at doing one, but not addressing all at the same time. And that's what makes it interesting, but also quite complex. Most company people, when they talk about cars and transportation, they tend to focus on carbon neutrality from the transport sector. But what we tend to forget is that about 45% of the impact is actually coming from producing a car in our case. So if you would buy a car, park it in the garage for 20 years, and then scrap it without driving a mile, you still will have 45% of the environmental impact. So that's where circularity comes into being a fundamental part in our attempts to reaching carbon neutrality, which is one of the goals that we've signed up to towards 2040. So circular economy, the difficulty here is with carbon neutrality, of course, they're interlinked, but circular economy are so many different aspects. Do you use very renewable materials, but with a short lifespan to continuously renew your car? Do you use very durable materials? What will a car look like in 20 years? Can you reuse components? Can you refurbish them? Can you repurpose a battery for other aspects? There are thousands upon thousands of questions that we try to go through and develop strategies and technology and design to solve. And there are a number of efforts. And as you can hear, I will often come back to sort of the complexity of the issue here. And what I will show is how we try to approach this by starting with what you could call the low-hanging fruit that is easy to understand to get the company in a circularity mindset. And then from that build on to more of a business perspective. And yet again, it's setting a culture, setting a precedent in the company about a new way to think, new criteria to adapt to when designing new concepts, new products, and new business models. The target we have set is we basically put a stake in the ground and said 2040, we are going to be a carbon neutral company, including product, services, production, and all areas. We've also said that we want to be a circular business. And I'm sure most of us here have read literature, articles, been to conferences, and there's a large number of ideas of what a circular business can be. To us, it's essentially looking at the fundamentals. Waste is no longer a part of the concept. The product will have a continuous lifespan, and we do believe that the way of selling a vehicle and then leaving it to the consumer to do what they wish with is a time of the past, and we think strongly that ownership of the products that we put on the market will, to a much larger extent, be within our own scope, allowing us to redefine criteria, attributes, and so on for the future, helping us to reach the circularity. To set the mindset, as I said, and to get the feature, we're looking at a number of targets towards 2025, because that is more tangible. And we've translated this into, if I say easy to understand aspects for everyone, which tends to be money, which everyone understands, and CO2, which almost everyone has a very clear understanding of. So the target we've set is that we will have an annual savings from circularity by 1 billion by 2025, and we will reduce our CO2 impact from circularity by 3 megatons. We're also looking at adding additional revenue from what we call new business opportunities, which in our world tend to be things like refurbishing, reusing components, but also new business models like, in our case, called Care by Volvo and M, which is either subscription or transport as a service instead of focusing on the product itself. We have broken down these efforts to, yet again, make it tangible to the average engineer, designer, business decision maker in the company. So we look a lot at materials, which is recycled and bio-based content, and also how we can be more efficient in our material usage, because there is, unfortunately, when you produce any product, you have stamping, you have extrusion, and so on, you will have waste in production. And that waste is becoming increasingly important, both from a cost and a CO2 perspective, adding to our circularity efforts. So we see that we will have roughly 500 million in saved money here. And a question that often comes is, can you save money on switching materials? And we do see that at an initial starting point, when our suppliers are shifting over from virgin materials to I would say more novel, whether it's renewable, recycled, or other types, there is sort of a slight uphill. We also see that when you get past this uphill and you have a new business stream up and running, you tend to be able to be more cost efficient. It's sort of an initial starting cost of getting things in place. Then we have what we call value retention. And that is something that we've actually been doing for a very long time, but haven't talked that much about. And that is things like taking engines and gearboxes and different types of components back from our service division when they are replaced and actually fixing the old parts instead of offering new. So if you would have a catastrophic failure of an engine, instead of buying a brand new engine, you can actually buy a used engine that has been refurbished to our own new car standards, reducing cost to the consumer, which is a benefit to them, but also, of course, reducing the environmental impact. And then we have them looking at capturing new business opportunities, which very much is changing the way we do business, which is what we see more long term. Instead of selling products linearly and then letting the consumer use it and finally turn it into waste, we're looking at more selling services in terms of subscription or even mobility as a service offers. So the 2025 targets are very much setting tangible efforts, of course, real world savings, but it is setting a precedent for the culture and the strategy of the company. What should we be doing towards 2040 and how can we get there? How can we redesign our products? How can we redesign our business models? And how can we educate our consumers to redefine what is a premium experience for them? Not necessarily putting all the money up front, but more looking at getting the service that they get of owning a private car today, hopefully in a better way with less hassle and probably more financial benefits to them in the end. That is the end goal. We don't have all the answers to get there, but we have a stepwise approach. As we show now, we look at circularity in, I would say, the efforts that is easy to understand and where infrastructure and business opportunities are in place, like materials, like component value retention. The next step that is ongoing right now internally is how do we put circularity in the products up front already when we design them? What materials do we mix? How do we use materials? How do we integrate recycled and renewable materials into our components? And how do we maximize the potential to either reuse existing components, especially interesting when moving into electrification, but also how do we optimize them for things like design for recycling and disassembly. Once that is in place and we looking at 2030 and beyond, I think the key discussion will be then both from our internal pressure, but also from a consumer perspective is what does consumer wants? Do they actually want to buy an expensive car and have the hassle of servicing and owning it? Or would they want to see a more seamless service from us? And we strongly believe that the world is moving in that direction, both from a need, from a sustainability perspective, but also from a consumer perspective in terms of simplicity and service improvement, if I would use that term. So we're looking then a lot into what type of materials and what type of requirements should go into these materials and these products to allow them to be sustainable over time, and allow us to take a larger responsibility, believing that we will own a lot more of these products and thereby can change the attributes for the ingoing components as well. So my key takeout here is culture needs to change in any company that truly wants to become circular. We are starting that journey now. We're seeing that the first set of targets that we had sort of set out this path for can be reached, and that is creating momentum in the company that we hope will take us all the way to our final goal towards 2040. And with that, I am trying to switch to my last slide here. I would like to thank you all for your time, and I think we will have time for questions and comments later in the session.
James, that's great. Thank you very much. Culture is key. And an opportunity, after we've heard from our other speakers, if you would like to have a more personal conversation with James, then you'll be able to go into breakout to have a conversation with him. Okay, so the world of artificial intelligence is very much part of the digital formats in terms of achieving transformation to circularity. And Klas Cullbrand, Director of Circular Economy Group at Chalmers Industriteknik, and also Bengt Eliasson from OPCO are with us this morning, I think, to talk particularly about a project, Vinnova, looking at AI within the context of circularity. So Klas, great to have you with us and look forward to hearing about your disruptive activities.
Thank you very much, Peter. Can you hear me good enough?
It's great.
Great. And thank you very much, James. Also very interesting to hear a little bit more about Volvo's journey. We are Bengt and Klas, like Peter mentioned, and we're here to present some conclusions from the work we are doing on investigating how we can use AI to transform into the circular economy or accelerate the transition. Myself, I'm working as the Director of Circular Economy at Chalmers Industriteknik, and also as the Innovation Manager for the Strategic Innovation Program Resource. And Bengt, who are you?
So my name is Bengt Eliasson. I'm happy to be here. I am more like an industrial expert coming from especially consumer industries, but I also spent a couple of years in companies like IBM applying AI in different use cases. So I come from the industry and technical side of things, and met with Chalmers Industriteknik and Klas 2 years ago when we started to dive into how to actually enable this through AI.
Great. Yeah, when we started out this journey, me and Bengt together, we started thinking about what is AI for us and what is AI for everyone else. And we quickly realized that there are almost as many definitions of what AI is as we are people on this planet. But we sort of ended up in a very broad definition, which is the ability of the machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. So when we've sort of settled on that definition, we started out on this journey and put a lot of effort into the work of doing this. But I would like to sort of skip and jump to the conclusions, because we're a little bit short on time here. So we ended up with the conclusions that we determined that there are 4 major areas where we can see AI having a potential for helping the transition into the circular economy. The first thing is that we can use AI already in the beginning when we are designing and developing our circular products, components, and materials. The second one is that we believe that we can use AI to develop circular infrastructure and technology, so the hardware basically. And also AI have a huge potential in actually enabling circular business models to arise and exist, and also improve on existing ones, of course. We also see that we can use AI in traceability, in the area of traceability. And unfortunately I can't go into what they mean more in detail, but what I would like to do is to show you some examples at least. And the first one is an example from GE Renewable Energy, this huge company from the US. They are using AI in a digital twin environment, which is basically a copy of the real world environment. And they have shown that they can increase the energy production by up to 20% by using AI, and also increase the value of this kind of wind farm by up to $100 million per 100 megawatt wind farm. Another example is from the agriculture industry or area, where we have this company, for example, the Farmer's Edge, and they use AI to optimize the use of farmland. So if we only have a given a limited amount of farmland, we can use AI to really optimize the use of that farmland and all the other resources that are used in the farming. So they are combining data on weather patterns, fertilizers, post-harvests, data from satellites, etc., to make this happen. Another example is how we can use AI to sort waste. It's not a new thing, but this way of using it perhaps is a little bit exciting. It's decentralized sorting of waste. So this company, they have developed this bin where you can sort waste more decentralized than we traditionally do in the recycling industry, where we have centralized recycling processes taking care of the materials. My last example is from a Chinese company called Didi. They are using AI to predict where the needs for certain vehicles are at any given time. So by doing so, they are really adding value to their circular business model of transport sharing. So they're really making sure that it's working well for the customers. But of course, we need to put some effort in to make this happen, to realize this potential. And I would like to invite Bengt to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Klas. And AI is becoming more and more a component in everyday life, even if we don't are aware about it. But 3 areas that we can dive into is data, knowledge, and collaboration. And looking into the first one, data, that is the most crucial one. It's important now that everybody gets aware of that you all have a piece of the puzzle to actually build the data structure. If you look into electricity today, if you buy something in Sweden and try to bring it to another country far away, like India or China or US, we realize that we have different structure of the electricity, how we deliver it. So to actually decide on how should we manage data in what structure, and also start to look into training data sets and how we should share data is very, very important. Many companies have not even started thinking about this. And if we're going to build an ecosystem that also becomes circular, everybody needs to get a good starting point on how do we structure things, where can we find data, what is the cost of data, what is good quality, and most importantly, how do we share data with others. The good thing is that Vinnova in Sweden is taking a forefront step on this and building up data factories as we speak. And they are now screaming for input. What are the use cases you are trying to solve? So data is, I would say, 80% of the challenge going forward. If we look into the next area with knowledge, we need to understand collectively how we make use of the data. And there is a lot to do in attracting talents to this field, because talents of AI and data science need to take a bet on where to place their talent. Is it going to be to solve the circular challenge, or is it going to be to work in a gaming company or in a bank? So the industry for circular economy needs to actually attract talents and also have this cross section between circular knowledge and AI knowledge, and make that a win-win situation. It's also a good starting point to actually start evaluate where you are on this journey. So I would say every company needs to have someone in charge for the data knowledge and the data maturity, and that's where we started, me and Klas, to look into some regions here in Sweden to see how can we help companies to define where they are in their start about this. The third one is actually to put data to work, and if this is going to make sense, we need to collaborate more efficiently, cross-border, cross-industries, across the whole thing. Normally, when we look into conferences like this, you have circular people going in one direction and the tech or AI people going in another direction, and we see a strong pattern that these type of groups needs to think together and spend time together and solve the problems together. You have different arenas for this. This is one, but there are so many arenas out there, and now also with people getting more used into meet online, there are no boundaries to actually to look into. So I think there are many more things to look at, but data, knowledge, and collaboration is a good starting point, and we're happy to meet up and discuss with all of you later after this conference. Thank you.
Klas, Bengt, thank you very much indeed for giving us dipping a toe into the world of AI. If you want to dip a further toe after we've heard from the other presentations, you'll be able to go into that room and have a further conversation with them. But clearly this is a huge area and part of the engines of transformation towards circularity. So thank you both very much indeed. Imagine a world where all beverage cartons are collected for recycling. That's Tetra Pak's vision in line with its 2030 strategy. We are great on visions this morning, which is exciting. The devil is in the detail. How do you actually make that work? Also in the world of fickle consumers. And I'm delighted this morning that we are joined by Helena Lindh, who's a market sustainability expert at Tetra Pak, North Europe. Helena, you've set yourself, your company set yourself a big challenge. Why not? So it'd be interesting to hear about the innovation disruption that's going on in Tetra Pak. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for that introduction. Can you hear me?
It's great.
Perfect. And I guess you can see my slides as well.
Yes.
That's a good starting point. Well, my name is Helena Lindh, and I am a market sustainability expert at Tetra Pak. I'm based in Lund. And my geographical responsibility is Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland. And I'm going to talk to you about Go Nature, Go Carton and our visionary and circular approach to beverage cartons of tomorrow. Now it would be a good time for me to be able to switch. So packages really helps us in keeping food safe and nutritious and available everywhere. And it's really here what Tetra Pak started out more than 70 years ago. But still today, 33% of food is lost or wasted on a global basis every year. We believe that high performance packaging is becoming even more important in ensuring global food supply and feeding the growing population of the world. But we also see every day in our media and that packages also cause us problems. From greenhouse gas emissions, plastic waste in our oceans, expanding landfills, depletion of finite resources, and littering, the list is long, of serious issues that we need to address, both as companies, but also as individuals every day. We believe that sustainable packaging can make a difference in contributing to meeting these challenges. We set out with a quite bold ambition. We want to create the most sustainable food package in the world. Our packages are made of, on average, 70% of paperboard. That is a good starting point. But they also contain a thin protective layers of plastic and aluminum. The plastic on the inside for the carton to be able to withstand the liquid product it holds. And on the outside, to withstand the humid condition in which it is transported and stored. And a thin protective layer of aluminum, 8 times thinner than a human hair, to be able to, with a long shelf life and without refrigeration and without preservatives. And we aim to reduce the use of plastic, remove the aluminum, and increase the responsibly sourced paper-based content in our carton packages. But to achieve this, the most sustainable food package in the world, we also have to look at the full life cycle of the package. We know that recycling of packages is important, but we know it's not enough. To protect the planet, we believe that future food packages should maximize the use of materials with a reduced impact on nature. We also know that sustainable plant-based materials is an important path to lower the carbon impact of the packaging industry. Why is that then? Well, Renewable plant-based materials, they cycle the atmospheric carbon and they leave the fossil carbon in the ground where it belongs. So I told you that we want to develop the most sustainable food package in the world. And we want to do it by following a circular approach. And I will give you some highlights of this circular approach. And due to the time restrictions, I won't be able to really deep dive in them, but we'll do a scratch on the surface. When it comes to raw materials and sourcing, our vision is a paper-based carton made from fully renewable or recycled materials that are sourced in a responsible way. We're not there yet, but we are on our way. I will give you some milestones that we have passed. In 2014, we launched Tetra plant-based, a chilled package made entirely from plant-based renewable materials. Another important step for us was in 2019 when we launched our paper-based straws in Europe. And to protect biodiversity, we rely on certification standards such as the FSC, Bonsucro, and the Aluminum Stewardship Initiative. And when it comes to FSC, for instance, 100% of our packages are certified and can carry the FSC label. When it comes to production and distribution, our vision is a carbon neutral production with minimal environmental impact. And we are not there yet, but we are on our way. On our way towards 100% renewable energy and net zero emissions. And we aim to be there by 2030 when it comes to our own operations. And we also work a lot with making the transportations more efficient. Not only the inbound to the filler, but also the outbound. To make the packages more space efficient, to make room for more packages in each truck. When it comes to food protection and consumption, our vision is that packaging makes food safe and available everywhere without the need for refrigeration, and backed by solutions that ensure traceability and reduce food waste. We're not there yet either, but we are on our way. If we look on the global greenhouse gas emissions, food waste accounts for around 8%. And our innovative technologies focus really when it comes to processing equipment, but also packaging equipment to make low waste processes that prolongs the life of the food and keeps it from spoiling. When it comes to recycling, our vision is a fully recyclable package with a supporting collection and sorting and infrastructure available everywhere to keep materials in use. We're definitely not there yet, but we are on our way. And our packages are collected all over the world. 170 recycling companies makes it their business every day to transform our packages into a wide range of new products. Looking at the fibers, they can be recycled up to or more than 7 times actually, recent research show, into new products. And we invest and devote our time and knowledge and collaborate with players to strengthen the development of new recycling technologies and the collection, sorting, and recycling infrastructure. And that is really how we try to increase the circularity of our packages. And we have also committed to introduce 10% recycled plastics in Europe by 2025, when it's done without compromising food safety and quality. When it comes to end of life, our vision is to reduce the use of plastic and use materials with a reduced impact on nature. We're not there yet, but we are on our way. As I said before, our packages are already today recyclable, but we strive and invest heavily to develop carton packages with a simpler structure and with an increased paper-based content. And besides removing the aluminum, we aim to create a food package with a reduced amount of plastic. This means that the most sustainable food package in the world will be made fully of responsibly sourced renewable or recycled materials, and it will be fully recyclable and carbon neutral. Thank you very much. And the slides, they are a bit lengthy, but it's to be valuable afterwards also as a standalone presentation. Thank you.
Helena, great presentation. Thank you very much. A very clear message. We're not there yet, but we're on the way. So thank you for that. And again, people interested in that sort of innovation and disruption, an opportunity to have a conversation with Helena after we hear from our final two disruptive, innovating speakers. So thank you very much for that. We're now going to turn to Boliden, one of the world's largest recyclers of electronics and the Nordic region's largest recycler of lead batteries, challenging areas in a circular economy. But we have Johan Andersson, Strategy and Business Intelligence Manager at Boliden Smelters, to offer us some insights into transformational work that's taking place within Boliden in this whole sphere. So Johan, you have a challenging environment to be working with, but look forward to hearing about your disruptive innovations. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Yes, that is absolutely true. We are working in an exciting industry, but not without challenges, absolutely. I hope you can hear me, I hope you can see me, and also my presentation.
That's good.
So, my name is Johan Andersson. I'm Strategy and Business Intelligence Manager at Boliden Smelters. And first of all, thank you for the organizers for including us. We feel humble about that invitation. The title of my presentation is Metals for a Sustainable Future. This is Boliden. So, we are an integrated mining and metals producer. We have 5 mines, we have 4 or 5 smelters, all of which, except for 1 mine, is located in the Nordic countries. And looking at the purpose of Boliden as a group, it is to provide the metals essential to improve society for generations to come. Our vision is to be the most climate-friendly and respected metal provider in the world. So as you can see, climate friendliness really plays an important role in our vision. And we are guided by our 3 values: care, courage, and responsibility. Now, looking at our smelters business area, as I said, we have 5 smelters, 2 in Finland, 2 in Sweden, and 1 smelter in Norway. Our main metals that we produce are copper, nickel, zinc, and lead. But we also produce a number of other metals and also a number of other byproducts that we can extract in our rather complex processes at our smelters. So what makes us unique then at Boliden if we compare ourselves to other metals producers around the world? Well, first of all, we have high capabilities in treating many different type of materials, not least complex raw materials. And by that, we can really have high recoveries of the valuable metals that these type of raw materials contain. And by doing so, we can also minimize the waste that we do generate. It's not possible to make products of everything we feed into our smelters. There will always be some type of waste, but we are putting a lot of focus and investments in really having sustainable waste solutions. And one of these solutions I would like to highlight that we're very proud of at Boliden is at our smelter Rönnskär in Skellefteå in Sweden. Here we have recently inaugurated our underground repository, meaning that on our smelter site, 300 meters below surface, we have, let's call it our own tunneling system, where we can safely store this waste that we generate. And who knows, what's waste today might be a valuable material in the future. And if that would happen, we definitely know where to find that. Another thing that is beneficial in how we operate at Boliden is the portfolio of our 5 smelters. Visualized in this slide, you can see the arrows going from the different smelters to another, meaning that a waste material from one smelter can be a valuable raw material for another one. So we really optimize the extraction of metals also by sending different materials in between our different smelters. And the feed material to the smelters, it's really a mix between concentrates coming from mines and also recycled secondary materials. The capacity of our smelters is higher than what we can produce in our own mines. That means that we also need to source material from mines around the world that are not owned by us. But looking at our smelting business, we are indeed pioneers when it comes to recycling. As Peter mentioned in the introduction here, we, in the south of Sweden, at our smelter Bergsö, we recycle used lead acid batteries from vehicles. So every year we recycle about 4 million car batteries at that smelters. That makes us one of the largest recycler of these type of batteries in the European Union. And I think the recycling of lead acid batteries is really a success case when it comes to a circular economy. First of all, there's a very high collection rate for these batteries around the European Union, and the recovery rate of the materials that these batteries contain, they're also high. So this is something to strive for in other applications as well. In the north of Sweden at our Rönnskär smelter, we recycle electronic waste. We are one of the largest recycler of this type of material in the world. And to give you a perspective of this, every day we recycle the equivalent of 2 million mobile phones. So you can imagine the capacity we have for this type of material. And the material is typically, maybe you can see it here on the image, it's very small, but it's typically kind of circuit boards coming from different type of devices, and this material contains, for example, copper, it contains gold, silver, and other precious metals, and it's a rather complex material to treat. One thing we are working on right now is how to handle the CO2 emissions of this process. We want to recycle, but at the same time, the recycling process emits CO2. So we're actually right now working together with Chalmers, looking at the possibilities of having a carbon capture solution on this process. And that would really be a fantastic achievement, because then we could reduce or even eliminate the direct emissions from this recycling process. Another material or type of material that we recycle at Boliden is residues from other industries. So one industry's waste can be our valuable raw material. And examples of this is steelworks dust, zinc ash, and incinerated waste. So as you can see, this is a big part of our business, and this is something that we are continuously working on to even improve more. It is an important, recycling as such is an important part of the whole metals industry globally, and we can definitely improve. Looking at the electronic waste, for example, what can be improved here is how it's collected. I mean, the availability of this material. It is not always easy for us to get a hold of enough material. And now when we want to scale this up in Europe, we also need to ensure that we will have enough material to recycle. I would also lift up the necessity for design of different applications, the easiness of recycle different electronic devices. Today, some electronic devices, they're quite complex to recycle because of the structure of the product. Working at Boliden, we have mines and we have our smelters. We do recycle. It's a big part of our industry. However, what our industry is really also trying to lift up is the necessity of having mines. We have ambitious targets defined in the Paris Agreement, in the EU Green Deal. And if we are to reach these climate targets, we need lots of more metal. Lots and lots of more metal, not least copper. It's the quantity we need for electric vehicles, for the charging infrastructure, for the renewable energy sources, such as solar panels and windmills. One wind turbine contains more than 2 tons of copper. The whole cabling of the transmission lines, substations, etc. It's really astonishing how much copper we will need in this so-called green transition. That's why we definitely need mines. We need to optimize how we work with mines in a sustainable way, and we need to optimize how we recycle so that we can really have high recovery rates of the materials put into the market. Different metals have different easiness of recycle, but a typical copper component, it can take a very long time before copper is put out on the market in a device or a building or in a cable before it returns to recycling. It can take more than 50, 70 years. Then, of course, you have other devices, such as a cell phone. It seems like a smartphone, the lifespan of a smartphone just decreases and decreases. So those type of devices, they are coming back quite quickly after they're put out on the market. But there is a big difference depending on what application copper is put into. And I read the other day, I think it's from the World Bank, saying that even if we would reach 100% recycling of a number of metals by 2050, that would reduce the need for mines with 50 and 30%. I'm sure that different studies would reach different conclusions, but still, it is very important to understand. And here, just another text I took from World Bank that I think it's quite impressive is: the world will need the same amount of copper over the next 25 years that it has produced over the past 500 years. There's so much copper that we need. And now I'm just focusing on copper, but nickel is another metal. We're a big producer of nickel as well in Europe, and when the electric vehicle industry is scaling up rapidly, the need for nickel is it's very high as well. So again, we need, how do we as a metal producer contribute to this? What is our role? Well, we need to make sure that we can produce these metals in the most sustainable way possible, both when it comes to mining and when it comes to recycling. And just some weeks ago, the 17th of March, we officially launched our green copper offering. And this offering includes 2 different products. We have Boliden low carbon copper, which is a copper cathode produced from copper concentrate from our own mines, located in Sweden and in Finland. And another product is Boliden recycled copper, which is a copper produced using 100% recycled material, mainly then from electronics. And both of these products have a carbon footprint of less than 1.5 kilos of CO2 equivalents per kilo copper. And putting that into perspective of the global average carbon footprint of copper, you can see that in the graph down to the right. There is a significant difference. And in our calculations, we are really having a conservative approach. We are having a cradle to gate approach, including scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. And we're happy about where we are today. We're not satisfied. We are continuously focusing on reducing our carbon footprint. But with this, we can still demonstrate that we can produce copper with a low carbon footprint compared to the global averages. And this is something that we're putting a lot of focus on, of course. And we would be happy to see this copper being put into different type of components connected to the green transition, not least electric cars, so cabling for energy, renewable sources. This is something that we're very proud of, being the first copper producer launching these type of products. So to sum up, how we really contribute to live up to our vision that we strive towards, to be the most climate friendly and respected metal provider in the world. Well, first of all, production efficiency. We really aim to extract as much valuable metals in the material that we feed into our processes, both being recycled material, but also material coming from mines. That means that we generate less waste, but the waste that we do generate, we store in a safe way. We produce metals with a low carbon footprint compared to our or to the global averages, and all this is fed into the concept of Boliden green metals. We've just launched our low carbon copper, but we will do the same for zinc, for nickel, and lead. Thank you very much. I will be happy to take questions now in the breakout sessions, and I hope that you will have some nice questions for me. Thank you very much.
Johan, thank you very much. Really instructive and insightful. Wish I could join your session, but I'm actually going to be part of the next one, which is our final speaker, Luca Campadello, Project Innovation Manager at Erion. Great to have you with us. You're delving into the world of WEEE. WEEE was sort of exciting pioneer area of circularity, but I gather the figures say we're still only managing to collect 35% of waste, domestic WEEE in Europe through official schemes. So you've got ideas for how to increase that 35% through some disruptive innovation. There's a little bit of disruptive noise on the line as well.
Luca, are you listening on the YouTube link as well? Please turn that off.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Joy,
Okay.
yes, it
Good.
sounds as though you had some other form of disruption taking place. But Luca, WEEE and Block WEEE and Inno WEEE, give us the disruptive lowdown on those innovations you're involved with.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your availability and your invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and also a pity to stay in Milan rather than in the beautiful location of the usual conference. But this is the time. I hope that now you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Maybe in this way it is better. Yes, it is the perfect assist to have the presentation of Boliden before mine. And let's see if traceability could support increasing the collection of WEEE, which, as you mentioned, has a rate of WEEE that are collected by the formal system, like it is Erion, the company for which I'm working for. Erion is the Italian take-back scheme for electronic waste batteries, but also industrial packaging. Let's see if that traceability could support to improve the collection, and which other benefits traceability could bring to the electric and electronic universe. So let's start from this question. Why traceability for WEEE? Of course, traceability is important for the counting. So to count the amount of WEEE that are collected, to count the amount of WEEE that are properly recycled, to count also the amount of electronic appliances that are put on the market. I think this is the basic support that traceability could do. We have also other benefits that traceability could bring. For example, and Boliden was an assist, maybe to certify the value chain for which a company like a big smelter like Boliden could demonstrate that the copper that they are recycling comes from electronic appliance. So could be an opportunity to certify the value chain. Another opportunity could be in the end-of-life sector, where traceability and the information that stays in the electronics could support a positive environmental choice. Like if we know that, for example, a washing machine was used for not in an intensive way, not for a long period, maybe before the shredding and the recycling of the raw materials, we can do the choice of sending the washing machine to preparation for reuse activities, giving to the washing machine a second life. So traceability could support decision making. Another possibility is that traceability support green option for the value chain. I say like that, and later I will explain better. It is possible that traceability support actors in the WEEE recycling chain in acting good performances. An example will be a project we are running. The name is Exceed, in which we support the installer of air conditioner in doing all the bureaucratic activity to properly manage the end-of-life air conditioner that they collect. So traceability could be useful for household WEEE and professional WEEE. Household WEEE, mobile phones, laptops, washing machines, whatever can be used by a family in Europe. Professional WEEE are items that are used by companies, so servers, engines, professional air conditioners, photovoltaic panels. Let's start from how traceability could support for the professional environment. So I'm speaking to you about the initiative of a project funded by Climate Kick. The name is Block WEEE, where the target of this project was to try to see if it is possible to track the professional appliance during the use phase. And this is to facilitate the proper management of the end of life. We tried together with University of Bologna and the Wuppertal Institute to figure out if with blockchain, Internet of Things, it was possible to build a system that support manufacturers like Coca-Cola, Whirlpool, or other producer of professional equipment, digital instrument that can support them in the tracking the item for a proper management of the end of life, but also for collecting information about the use phase. We did testbed experiments, developing a system with blockchain that could communicate the data between the different actors of the chain. And we finished the project in imagining how blockchain and the Internet of Things can support the manufacturer. We as usual, we started with an idea. Let's just put a GPS in the professional refrigerators for the cook, or let's start to put a GPS in the coffee machine for the offices. And we end in a very complex model where we discovered that it is very easy to put a SIM, a GPS inside the appliance as a cost, of course. But what could be engaging, what could facilitating the proper point of view on what happened to an appliance, it is to engage different actors. Let's take the example of the professional refrigerator. We have the club owner, the owner of the bar where the professional refrigerator is installed. We have the clients of the bar. Through gamification, we imagine a system where user can be an active actor in confirming that the professional refrigerator is in the bar, is installed, and it is working properly. So this is the way the manufacturer can have a confirmation that this professional refrigerator is in use and it is not improperly disposed. Another possibility offered by digitalization, it is to make smart contracts with the club owner for managing the contractual relationship, but also to engage the club owner in filling properly the professional refrigerator with the right beverages, so that with the engagement of the citizen, the club owner can have discount in the furnitures of liquids. This is another example. Everything was built to engage the club owner with the original manufacturer, so that when, unfortunately, the club stops its activities and it is time to change the equipment and dispose the equipment, the club owner remember that he has a relationship with the manufacturers, so that manufacturers can come and take the refrigerators and bring it to the right place. Today, the return rate of professional equipment, it is very low, more low than the household equipment. So if household equipment, we mentioned 35%, it is the proper managed WEEE. For the professional, the numbers are less than 10%. You can see that this architect, this layout could support the end user, so the club owner and the manufacturer, in starting virtuous collection opportunity. Let's speak about another project, Exceed. We launched together with the air conditioner manufacturer, professional air conditioner manufacturers, with the idea to support the installers. Installers are the owner of the end-of-life professional air conditioners. We develop a portal, an app for them that will support them in recording the WEEE that they are collecting, and we are providing them solution for the downstream treatment of the equipment and also of the F-gas. Traceability and digitalization could then support, again, the end user, which is the installer, to do the right choice, to bring the professional equipment to the proper value chain. Let's go to let's say, to see the landscape for the household WEEE. With the project in WEEE, we try with digitalization to increase the collection of small electrical equipment. And this was done considering the return rate of mobile phones, laptops, small items, it is very low. And to investigate if it is the possibility to do the choice we discussed at the beginning. So the possibility to have information about the equipment, to decide to send it to recycling or to send it to preparation for reuse. We pilot the initiative in 3 areas, very different one from the other, one in UK, 2 in Italy, one in the north and the other in the south. We did it starting from engaging citizens and in particular students. We developed a game together with Fondazione Bruno Kessler, where students were engaged in looking in their house all the not used, not end-of-life small electrical equipment. They start a competition with the other classes, And the goal was to building a ninja, something like a robot ninja that could fight for the environment. So one action to increase the collection, it is to increase the awareness. Another action to increase the collection was implementing smart bin. So giving the possibility to citizens to dispose their small equipment in an easy way, not traveling to the municipal collection point that usually it is outside the city, but putting the smart bin inside the city, in the commercial center, in the shops, so that you citizens are facilitated in disposing. Then there was also a rewarding program. The more items you dispose, the more points you collect. What is another key for traceability? It is to collect information about the items the citizen is disposing. So both for the students, both for the citizen, we ask to citizen to say how old is the item, if it is still working or not. This information are useful for the end of life chain. All this information went to a tracking database managed by a data group, where all the information of the items and all the notes that the items is passing from the house of the citizen to the school or to the collection point and then to the recycling point were tracked. So the inventor of the Kelvin scale says that if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. These traceability experiments allow us, and I'm going to the end of my presentation, to fix some points for the improvement. For the professional it is clear that traceability has a cost. Just to put a GPS inside every equipment as the monthly cost with the telecommunication company for the data connection. And this cost could be compared with a different benefit. So one, it is to avoid the risk of non-compliance, knowing where it is the professional equipment. It is an opportunity for the manufacturer to do the right action when it is not working anymore. Then it allows the manufacturer to acquire knowledge about the use phase. Today, we collect feedback from many manufacturers. They do not know what happens during the use phase because they are selling to dealers. From dealers, there are maybe another shop. From the shop, there is the user. The distance between manufacturer and the user, it is very long. Digital solution could erase that distance.
Luca, just aware you've overshot your 10 minutes.
So
okay. I think we may take this into the discussion group. If you just want to say a final quick remark.
Yes. Final remark, let me go to the as old how to increase the collection, put the collection points easy to reach, so in the center of the city, in shops, engage, so education of the citizen is a key point, while a rewarding system was an experiment that could be useful just for the beginning, because we cannot imagine a sustainable system where a citizen is rewarded for making a positive action for the planet. I mean, this is can be useful for the beginning, but it cannot be sustainable in the long term. These are the takeaways from my side. All the questions can go to the breakout rooms. Thank you for your attention.
Luca, fascinating. Thank you very much, and very interesting, that engagement with the consumer in all their various guises as well. So that's really interesting. So we're going to take another disruptive participatory leap. You've heard from, I think it's 6 innovation disruptors. what we'd like to invite you to do now is to select one of them that you can go and have a bit more of a conversation with, talk about whatever you like. What that requires you to do is, back in the main portal, is to look down the day one program, and you'll see a Zoom link which says join participatory interaction, join Zoom meeting. And I think if you go on there, you'll be able to see the 6 titles of the presentations, select one, join that room, and there's about 15 minutes to just have an interaction. And then we'll come back, because I'm just also interested to know about what makes innovative disruptors tick. So that's when we come back, and we're going to break for lunch at 12:10. So aim for the participatory interaction, join the Zoom meeting, and make a choice of which of our disruptors you would like to have some conversation with. See you shortly. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. The transfer into breakout rooms was not without its excitement. Some of you may still be in outer space, in which case apologies, we live and learn. We're going to have break for lunch in about 10 minutes. And hopefully you had a chance for a little bit of interaction. Rather than feedback, I just want to ask a question. I'm interested, all of you are involved in organizations that are trying to encourage transition, innovation, and disruption. And I'm just interested in whether you are using any particular ways to support the culture, all the people in the organization, in terms of being part of that journey forwards. And so I don't know, it just any of you, maybe start with James. I mean, Volvo, complete transformation, and without being rude, you're going through a culture of petrol heads who love the smell of it to something completely different. Just interesting how, as a disruptor, you enable people to come on board with this sort of a significant change.
Yeah, it's a big question. I think I started out by saying culture beats strategy, and there's a lot of things. I mean, for those who follow our company, you probably know that our combustion engine development has actually been transferred into a separate company. And it yet again comes back to commitment from leadership in showing action, not just talk. We have made the clear statement that we will be electrical company by 2030. We will no longer use combustion engines by then. So I cannot emphasize enough the need from senior management and essentially CEO and the top section to show that they truly believe in this. And that, of course, means that you have to work on convincing them to begin with on taking this transitional journey. And then you need to speak their language a bit. So what we to a large extent has looked at is sort of the macro development trends. What is the regulation pointing towards? We have a pretty long development cycle. It's a complex product. What is the financial market looking for? Because we, as many other industries, are dependent on investors being interested in us. And so you can see these macro trends, and you can translate them into what they potentially will mean for us in a 5 to 15 year span. And thereby set not necessarily talking as if they were petrol heads and we are sort of the greens, not speaking our language, but speaking their language, and thereby finding common grounds on what transition is needed and how disruptive does it need to be to actually be at the forefront and showing leadership in this area. So that's what I would focus on.
Right, interesting. Just wonder, Helena, within Tetra Pak, again, this sort of cultural transformation, you know, there's a lot of scientists who put a lot of effort into old products and all the rest of it, and suddenly, you're wanting this new vision, all the rest of it. How do you bring everyone along, or is everyone excited to be at the forefront of change?
Well, sustainability, even though it has taken different course along the years, it has been a core part of our business along the way with quote from our founder, a package should save more than it costs. But we have recently also launched an educative training platform, Sustainable, to equip everybody with more knowledge when it comes to sustainability, and to make everybody equipped to lead this transformational journey towards sustainability.
Right. I just wonder whether anyone else wants to comment. I mean, there's a continuing intake of new young people coming into the business. And I'm just interested as whether they are the biggest innovation disruptors, or whether our universities are spewing out a whole generation of people who are risk averse, just want to have a very nice shiny car and a good salary and a pension. Are the innovation disruptors coming from angry old men and women like me, or is it really driving from those people coming into companies? I don't know whether Klas or maybe Johan. Johan, do you want to just...
I mean, maybe it's a very diplomatic answer, but I would say that it's a mix of the two. I mean,
it's a very diplomatic answer.
if you look at our processes, I mean, at Boliden, both the mines and the smelters, we have a strong culture of technology development, of innovation. I would say that that's in the DNA, in one sense. But I mean, looking at some items that we have focus on today, such as environmental issues, I mean, recycling, at least, the importance for society to go in that direction. I think there the younger generation plays a very important role. The understanding of why we need to go in that direction. That is not always understood in the people that have worked for an industry for 30, 40 years to really understand why should we decrease CO2. I mean, that's just an example, but the mix of the two is absolutely necessary. And if you're working in a high-tech industry like for us, we need fresh, new, skilled workers all the time. Otherwise, we run the risk of becoming obsolete in some sense.
Yeah, I wonder we might just comment on this, Klas, because you're quite close to one of those you're part of one of those institutions. Are you equipping your students and graduates as risk-taking disruptors, or actually are they a really safe bunch who just want a job?
I think it's to also be diplomatic. I think it's a mix, but I would rather hope that most of the people are students that are coming out from Chalmers. They go to do good stuff and stuff that benefits the world. But I think we have a joint sort of responsibility. We, as in everyone working with circular economy and working to enable the transition, to also work with some kind of joint employer branding here. We need to make ourselves attractive. We need to attract the talents to our kind of businesses. So we need to show that it can be cool, it can be fun, it could be a great way of doing like a career choice, etc. So that we're really attracting them. So while we, of course, are presenting the facts of why we need the circular economy and all this, sort of all the problems that we have on this earth, we need also to to show all the positives that could come from this circular transition, and show that it could be really fun to be on board.
Right. Just a further word, Klas. I'm interested, you're getting a whole, I don't know, you might have a whole set of chemistry graduates or whatever. I'm just interested whether the whole teaching method is changing to develop more of an inquiring mind, or actually be equipped for this fast changing world, or whether you don't really see, basically people are people and we've always churned them out the way we do, and there's no reason to change. I sometimes hear that a nervousness that our great universities and things are actually not necessarily equipping people with those people skills and those inquiry skills, but are very much sort of specialists in specialist boxes. Do you just want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think you should save that question for someone working closer to the educational part of the university than I do. But at least we see that for the basis for employment, like all the students that we would like to employ at Chalmers Industriteknik, we see that they are growing, or that basis are growing. So we have more to choose from than just a couple of years ago, at least. I think that is a positive sign. But save the specific question for someone from
I will do. Listen, it's time that we broke for some lunch. Could I thank you all very much for your participation? We wish you well as innovation disruptors. We're sorry for the slight technical disruption halfway through, but we managed to get through. We wish you well as we travel forwards. And for all delegates, participants in the conference, we're going to break now and rejoin at 1 o'clock Central European time. We've got 2 parallel breakouts you can choose from, one which is outlook on batteries for electric cars, so further discussion there, and the second one is closing the loop for plastics. We hope you've been stimulated by some amazing projects and activities going on this morning. More to come this afternoon, so have a nice break, get a breath of fresh air, and then we look forward to seeing you after the break. And once again, to our speakers this morning, thank you so much for giving up your time to inspire and inform us. Been really great. Thank you very much.